EDA means exploratory data analysis. So exploratory data analysis means you will get one sheet, say some CSV file. You need to understand some insights about that CSV file and give some conclusions. So so whenever you're getting something, so you can do like, let's say this is one of the notebook. I am saying like, I don't want warnings. I'm filtering the warnings and I'm saying ignore. So nowhere I will in the notebook, I'll get warnings anymore. So I am using, apart from pandas, there is another module called as matplotlib. Matplotlib is a module for creating graphs. So plots we can create. Matplotlib.plot, so .plt we are taken. And here I'm saying this one, see here. These are called as magic cells. Means in a notebook, I do like ampersand you write and you write anything. So then from then onwards, what all actions were there, they will show in the notepad itself. Sorry, Jupyter notebook itself. Means like till now you create any graphs, the graph will come like a separate pop-up. But when you are working in a Jupyter notebook, everything should come within it, right? So for that we can use this magic cell. Similarly, you remember I use it for time and others also, these magic cells. So that's the point. You activated inline this magic cell. So now you have one data set. If I do dot head of 3, I get only 3 rows. So indexing, it is giving like the apps, category, rating, and all the informations. And now I created a data frame called as apps. It doesn't mean every time I should make data frame as DF only. I can give any name. I gave the name as apps. Once you have a data frame, you can ask the shape. So you'll understand the rows and columns. In total, there were 13 columns and these many rows are there. And if you ask that print dot columns, you will get the list of all the columns. Whenever you have a data, first of all, if you want to do the pre-processing activities, we said. Pre-processing means cleaning. So, or like basic transformations, or like sometimes in your database, you call some columns with some names. But from the third-party source, when you get the data, they may be having some other column names. That kind of column mappings. All these kinds of activities you can do in the pre-processing. So first such thing is like the cleanup. We have data, right? But you don't know how much data is like clean. Clean means like, you have all the values, but suddenly if one of the values is missing, then you don't know what to do with that. Sometimes in CSVs, whatever we get, it may be happening. In that case, it will be represented as a NA, means not a number. That kind of null records, if you want to know, and if you want to see total, I'm making like this. Is null dot sum I give means at the data frame level, what are all the columns are there? 13 columns are there. For each of the column, how many are having nulls? So for the ratings, some of them has a more amount of things. And here for content rating 1, so type 1 like that. Now overall shape is like this. So these many records are there. But in all the records, only these many records have this problem. And column wise, this column has a lot of nulls. Now, what you want to do with this? Either if you have a null values, you want to replace with some default value, or else you can drop those rows. If you want to drop rows, say how? So when you drop na, okay, there are two things: drop na, fill na, is na. Is na means what? Is null, sorry. Is null means what? Checks whether it is null or not. Drop na means it will drop a null. So we are mentioning like how do you want to drop? How is equal to any way you want to drop all the values, and in place equal to true. If you don't place like in place equal to true, then the result again you need to assign to some other data frame or the same data frame. So whenever you want mutable changes, you do like this. Then after that you replaced all the nulls, right? Finally you're asking, hey, do you have any more nulls? No, because all the null values are there, it was removed. And you observe here, so totally 1474 null values are there in this column. For this, 1 is there. It may or may not be that the same column in which it is null may or may not be same for others. Means there can be nulls at different rows, right? So wherever null is there, we want to remove all of them. So after you removed all the things, dropped, if you ask finally, hey, what is the shape? So from 10,841, you just got like 9,360. Means you excluded all the null values. Finally, after getting that, you are checking for any duplicated data. So yes, I have some duplicate content. I did check at the app level. So means that the data frame level means complete row duplicates. Sometimes what happens, the same column you will have multiple values, but other values may be different, right? So in that case, you can ignore. But complete row duplicates means, so then you have these many duplicates. Similarly, like a drop now, you have drop duplicate. Drop duplicates, if I say, it will duplicate. And when you're dropping the duplicates, you can also mention like, retain the first occurrence or retain the last occurrence. That is optional. If you don't specify, by default, the first occurrence will be retained. The remaining occurrence will be deleted. After deleting this, if you asked, hey, what are the values? Again, it is showing cleanly. And see here, now you are asking dot duplicate dot sum. Means at the row level, there is no more duplicates. Means, so the numbers were further reduced. Now you got a pure clean data set. From this data set, you can do like you are checking for ratings. Ratings is one of the columns which we are taking and we are asking. So describe is something, if you give at the data frame level, it will give the overall stats. Or if you give only for the rating, that also it will give. Total count of ratings, how many total ratings are there? 8,886 are there. Because like earlier, we have 9,000 so and so. From that, it was removed some of the values. So then obviously, so 9,300 minus 4,700, sorry, 470 something, it will give this much only. So in the ratings, totally these many values are there. What is the mean rating? What is the average, standard deviation? All the percentile stats. And one more thing is like uniques. You want to get the list of all unique ratings, means like total ratings uniquely. So you will get like this. Generally, if you want to do the same thing on an ordinary list values, you convert to a set, right? So here you can use dot unique. And finally, you got some ratings. These ratings, if you want to do a plot. So, there are two ways of plotting their diagrams. Even pandas also support certain things. There are other modules like matplotlib, seaborn for creating these plots. Using this pandas data frame itself, the data frame you created with pandas, dot ratings, or you're plotting. All the ratings you are making a plot. So histogram you are mentioning. What do you mean by histogram? If you understand this concept, it's very simple. Whenever you want to project something, if you want to see the distribution or like, more concentration, where things are more concentrated, like that if you want to get, you need to specify histogram. Histogram means very simple. Uniquely, you got these many values, but there were some values repeated also, right? It's not like a complete row depleted. There will be multiple labs with the same ratings. That is quite possible. So in histogram, you will superimpose in this entire band. So for each of the value, how much you got? Let's say if there are, you can see like from 4.5, you got a lot of values. So like that, now you understood the concentration, right? So that's the point of going for a histogram. So histogram is doing it. And similarly, now you understood that most are like concentrated around the 4.5. And there are very less with 1.0 because mostly those kind of apps you deleted at all. And now you are sorting these apps, sort by value. By, we need to give this column called as by. You need to specify the columns. Means entire data frame, the value, the rows you are reordering based upon this column called as reading. How you are doing ascending equal to false means descending order. So that's the reason. See here, in place I am doing means what are the changes will go to the main data frame itself. Now, did you see? You got like 5 ratings first, 5 ratings. So because you did in a descending order, right? Now the data frame was rechanged. And similarly, after these ratings, I am going for category. If you see the categories, category is one of the title. In that I am checking for all the categories. If I say uniquely, I will get all the unique values. Now I am checking totally how many unique values I want to get. I can use a length operation or else a dot count also I can use. For any data frame, you can use length operation or else dot count. Both will give the same thing. And similarly, if I say like values count, so counting each of this category and like I am doing a sort values by descending equal to false. And did you see I didn't mention like in place equal to true. So means like first it will take all the categories and it will take the values for each of the categories. Say each category how many times it can repeat, right? So those numbers it is giving and the results it is sorting by in a descending order. Ascending equal to false means descending. That's the reason now we understood that in all the apps there were more amount of family apps, then less game apps, next tool apps, next. So now you understood some information about the data set, right? So this is how like EDA means exploratory data analysis. You explore and analyze the things. And you want to showcase, you can do a graph. So graph is something which is not everyone does it. So for you to understand, you can do if needed. So then you remember I created like a matplotlib.plot, matplotlib.pyplot. So I am taking that and I'm creating. Generally, when you're creating any graph, you need to remember two things. So whether you have like a single dimension or multiple dimension data, and which should be the x-axis, what should be the y-axis. This is a very simple thing. So here, first you are creating a graph. The figure size means what are the image that you're seeing. The size of this graph. That size you made like 20 by 20. So you can practice different numbers, you'll understand. And I'm taking these categories and I'm taking values count. Values count means I got these things. Now, did you see I got two values right now? One is the tools and the numbers. Tools and the labels and the numbers, right? So labels and the numbers two are there. Now I want to do a plot and I'm saying like a kind is equal to bar h, bar horizontal. Or you try different graphs. You give histogram, everything, you see how the things are there. So I have like two things. Now it will give all the labels and each of the values of these numbers. So with this, now I got a clarity. As I displayed everything like this, okay, family has a lot of things. So as an individual, we can understand by seeing this data itself, which is highest. But if you want to show the results to the client, sometimes client want to see like, so client may or may not understand these numbers and see understand. So that's the reason graphs are to convince someone else. If you are the only person who is dealing everything, then there is no point of doing these graphs and others. That's why graphs, not everyone does it. So use-based people does it. Next, going for the next column called as reviews. I'm saying reviews.head means by default you will get the top 5. So you got it. Then like from this, I am doing an apply. I found that these reviews, which are numbers which are getting, I want to convert to an integer. You know apply, right? If you want to do any function on top of any of the columns, you can do like this. Or if you want to do and the entire data frame also you can do. And you see, like this also you can assign. Because apply don't have like a in place. So that's the reason I'm assigning to this. And finally, I got some reviews. And reviews, these values are like integers. Because if they are not integers, it would be difficult for us to graph. Because they don't know the numbers only, it can understand, right? String means how can it understand? So I took the numbers, dot plot of kind equal to histogram. Now you can see the reviews are mostly around this point. So like that. Reviews are like this, ratings are more. Means ratings are like around 4.5 and 5, but reviews are like 1, 2 only. Means there is a lot of match, right? Means things are not something not good. Someone has manipulated or synthesized these ratings. Something we need to verify. Or you can think in the other way that people who are every very much convinced didn't even look for making a rating, or people who are frustrated, they only left a review. You can think like that. So what are I'm telling are subjective conclusions based upon the data. So as a data engineer, it is not our business to draw conclusions. Our business is to just visualize them, or like give the data for them, how they want to present. So we are like a data facilitator. You can think how to get that, how to place it, and how to make it. And similarly in the reviews you saw, if I say that describe, it will give the list of all the reviews, and that describe means like so statistics. And the app dot sort values by reviews now. Earlier we sorted by ratings. Now I am sorting by reviews. So as I sorted by reviews, even 4.1 also came first. Earlier 5 rating came first. Now reviews came first. More reviews, which one has? You see? So ascending equal to false, in place equal to true. So it has done. You asked this time head of 20. I just want to see 20 values. You got the first 20 values, all the values. You can understand some patterns. Okay. So top reviews are for like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. Means all are like belong to the same Facebook company. Though it is like so Google apps, so the Android apps like this, like Messenger means like top four, everything is them only. Then like Clash of Clans and all these things. So who need this data? Maybe like you want to create a new app in Android. You want to see this data and understand how the people are there, which apps are getting more craze, more reviews, so that you, when you are investing as an investor, you will invest in accordance, right? So these conclusions can help you. Similarly, if you go for the size, so size is another attribute. So another column, you are working on it. If you ask like unique, you will get the unique sizes. So sizes are like different values, means so the too many values are there because it is variable, right? Subject sizes may not be the constant things. So you are doing like, and you are asking how many have the so subject varies with device. Means apart from these fixed sizes, some of them has even this varied with device. Means device to device, their size will different. So if you want to get those values, you can do dot length, or after this entire filter, you can do dot count attribute or length built-in function. So then, if you want to replace wherever this varies with device with a not a null, so it means nan, if you want to replace, because varies with thing you don't want, so you replaced it in place. And finally, you want to do, or like you can say replace, and you can do a drop now after that. After replacing these values, you want to drop. So like that you can do. At this moment, I replaced. So totally, so you got these values. Next, after that, I am taking one function and I want to apply. So for the for whichever the values which has like varies, I made it like null, right? That's fine. But for the remaining things, it is like 98 MB, so 46, 56 M, like that MK, like that things are there. So MK means like you cannot understand much. You want to understand means you want to convert your own way. So that's the reason I created one function for if you are given a size, if the size is not equal to not a none, then if the k in the size, then you replace this value and multiply. Means k you replace and the remaining value convert to float and multiply with 1000. If it is m, multiply with so 10 to the power of 6. So then after that, if you do, you will get a result as a floating point value now. Because earlier you got all as a strings, right? You cannot do much processing. If you want to process, you need to convert them to string, this one. Now you got floating point values. Then you can ask like, hey, what is the mean value? So, and what are the calculations you want to see? What is the mean size? So as the numbers are like in a string format, you cannot do till now. As you convert it to floating, you can do whatever you want. And if you want to replace, so fill na means see here. Earlier you replaced a variable with size with a na, right? So null values. Those null values, if I want to replace with the average size, means the mean size. So that's what I'm doing. Fill now of this fill na means whichever is null, replace with a mean size. The mean size it gets and replaces it. And now you're asking, hey, do you have still any null values? No. So now finally everyone got some values, sizes. So, and you are getting that. Now based upon the size, if I want to sort, ascending equal to false means descending order. Now we see size, which are is having the highest size, that is coming first. It can have a lesser rating, lesser viewings, but it came first. So that's how you do it. Or similarly, there is one more thing like installs, another column. You want to work on it. How many installations are there? 50K plus, 5K plus, so 10K like that. So for this also, so if you see the installations, you can see for every number, there were commas, right? For us to understand. And also there is a plus operation. So if you want to replace them, you can do like this. I want to replace. See, I wrote a custom function where I take the number, which is like a string, I replace plus with empty, and like commas also I will replace. And the result I convert to integer. So I applied like this. Now you see the same installations, I got like a pure numbers, no more plus, no more commas. Now after these values, I am now sorting by these installs, ascending equal to false. Now you see, based upon the installs you got right now, the values. And the same fashion, if you want to work with the type, you can do the same way. So type, how many are there, paid and free are there. So if I say like type dot values count, if each one, if you want to know the counts of each of the values, you go like the values count. Unique will give the total unique values, and values count will give the unique values and their counts, how many are there in total. And similarly, prices. This is another column. If you want to get the unique values and you got the prices. And here another problem is there. The prices, everything has a dollar before it. How do you process it? So means we need to convert that to an integer first, means float. So I will, if there is a dollar, I want to replace that dollar and convert to float. Sometimes if there is no dollar, then just convert to float. Then after I did like this, you see in this case there is no dollar, right? Zero is there. So for that I wrote this edge case. If I apply right now, I'll get everything as a floating point values. Now I can do any operations like mean or average or sorting by, I can do. Now you can see based on the price, everyone got highest price like 400. Now you understood. So highest price, now I can understand with this and I can understand. See, so okay, 400 price is there. With that, like 10,000 installations were there. Means this much size is there. These many reviews are there. It is just something related to lifestyle. So that's some app. And similarly, you got some prices information. And if you want the overall stats, average value, so statistics, all this information you can see. Means average you got like zero because most of them are like free. So that's why if you want the paid average, then you need to ignore the others and you do it. Take that as an assignment and do. So in these apps prices, you filter only the paid prices, and within that also tell me like what is the mean price of the paid. So like that. And similarly, if you get genre, so in the genre means like you got all the information, unique values. If I ask unique genres, there are multiple genres. So within that also you can ask dot length, and you say values dot values count. I can ask like head dot type. So means like head means like top values within those values count. So tail means like last values. So as I gave like head and tail also in the same thing, the second one has overwritten the previous result. That's the reason you got like the last five so genres and their number of times they occurred. So, but like there were many, right? So that's why if I print everything, it would be very big thing. That's why I didn't print everything. So similarly, after getting this genre information, I want to split these genres by comma because there are like multiple genres are there sometimes, comics creativity is there. So I want to splitting and I want to get the zeroth values. Means so comic creativity, adventure brain games, puzzle education like that. So I want to assign only one value to each of them. Now earlier you got like a genres also multiple genres like this crazy. I'm just getting the first values only. Like this I want to cleanse and import, I can do it. So like that any one if you are given, you need to do this kind of analysis. And similarly we have the next project is on a typical TED Talk dataset. That data sets also I attached, and you can see. So in this data set also same thing. These are part of the Kaggle, just I brought from there only. In Kaggle, there were many data sets like this, and you can find a lot of people who has analyzed the data sets also. You can see the entire process, how they have analyzed the things. With that, you can come to a conclusion, how to we can do the analysis. So as a data engineer, your job is not about the analysis, bringing the data for this analysis. This data analysis is part of the data science thing. So there is like a blur in the border between the data engineer and data science. So it is something middle of it. Similarly, if you have a data set of this one, TED Talks, you see. So same thing, you got the data right now. You understood that some things are very weird. You understood this data set is fine, but there are some things that you need to change. Film date is coming like this. Film date is coming like a timestamp. So, and also if you see, the tags are like multiple tags are there, comma separated. And the URL is something like this. Okay, like this, you got some, raw data that you want to transform. If I say data frame.columns, I got all the columns. If I want to know dot shape, it will give the list and all these things. Okay, I got these values. I want to reorder these columns. So if I want to reorder the columns, so data frame is equal to same data frame of, be very careful, how many columns you got, the same column numbers you should give. Else it would be a big confusion for you, because in real time datasets will not have like 5 or 6 columns. You will have like 17, 25, 35 columns like that. So be careful, that's why. These, they are coming in their own order. I want name first. So you need to give the same names, okay? When you are doing a read order. So I gave the name title in this order. So, and after that, I am reassigning the same thing to it. Now you see, I got name first, then title, then description, main speaker, all these informations. Fine. And I just changed the names. After going this, you can find that I got like the film date. I just told earlier, right? Film date is something like a timestamp. You cannot understand what is this time. So how do you convert that? So, in Python, we have like from date time, import date time. So from timestamp of, you take that, right? So you convert to an integer and pass to it. By default, it's a string, because when you read from a CSV, it is like that. You convert to an integer and convert it, and you do a strf. Then strf time means it will convert to this time format. Now you see, those timestamp were converted like this. So now you can understand this one. Similarly, the publish date. If you see, publish date is also like this timestamp. For that also, you need to repeat the same process. Or generically, you can write a function separately and reuse by doing a dot apply. That is also a way. I did the same thing for a publish date also. Then similarly, now after applying these two, now you can understand more clearly what is the film date, what is the publish date. Film date, publish date. It's clear, right? Now we are asking the shape. Shape means I got these many 17 columns and these many rows are there. Now I want to sort these entire results, and see here, I am not assigning again to the data frame. I am taking to another data frame, such that this data frame I am not modifying, so that I can reuse subsequently if need. So I am saying like here, sort by the values. There is an option called as by. If you give like a by, and if you give like in braces, you can give multiple values. If you want to just do sorting by single value, single column, you just give like a string. If there are more than one, we should give like a list. As a best practices, if you give like a list, in future if you want to modify also, it's easy. So you did sorting by descending order of the views, and from that result you want to take only 3 columns. Means entire columns you have, but you want only 3 columns: title, main speaker, views. Now did you see, a new data frame called as pop talks was created, which has like only 3 columns, and also it has by views, it has sorted in the descending order. So highest views you got the top, the remaining less, like that. Highest view was for the main speaker called as Ken Robinson. So do school skill creativity, obviously. So that's it, topic to debate. But fine. So now coming to the views, I'm asking the description. So overall, how many views are there? Total count. What is the mean views? means average. So it gives some number. Then like in terms of the comments, if I see, for the comments also the mean comments, like how many comments are there, minimum, max, like that. Next, so I am using another module called as cborn. So there are a couple of modules like matplotlib and cborn for doing any kind of visualizations. So cborn is one such module. And you see what I am doing, MATLAB inline. So the moment I did this magic cell, so all the plots will come into the Jupyter notebook itself. If I don't do this, it will pop up like a separate thing. Generally, we create Jupyter notebooks such that the entire flow we can store in one place and we can export so that anyone can see the real results. You don't expect others to, notebook concept is like others can just see and understand. It's not like they should also run in to understand, because sometimes this is a very small data set. In real time, you'll have like petabytes of data. When you have petabytes of data, you cannot process that easily. So that's why once only they will analyze, and every time they will read others. So you see, cborn I am importing as SNS, and I am doing a dist plot. Earlier there used to be a distributed plot. They changed it to dist plot right now. So in the dist plot, I am displotting of the comments. Means the same thing, distribution. So you want to see the relative distribution where it is. So total comments count are like, so how many such comments came and where is the distribution. By seeing the results, you can see that this population density is mostly into the 0 to 1000 size. Similarly, for the same thing, if you want to do the histogram plot, you can do that. And also, so I am picking from months from this dates. Okay, I have this data set, right? You see in the data sets, whatever we have in these data sets, we want to again do something. I want to take the based upon the months and I want to do something. You see now what I'm doing. You remember I didn't overwrite the earlier data frame. I created a separate data frame and worked on it, right? These are all like separate data frame and worked on it. So for this data frame, I am taking month orders. So Jan, Feb, so and so. Actually, this is the main order, right? From months means. And this film date, I want to apply. So month order of this thing. So whichever the dates which I generated, film date, from that I want to get this order, apply this order. It means like very simple. You have a list of values, right? List of these strings. When you apply month order means month order of whatever you get. Say very simple. You earlier, what is your month date, film date? You see here, film date is like this, right? 25 to 2016. Published date is so and so. Means you got the month values 02, 02, 02 is your month. So whenever there is a 02, you want to represent with the February instead of 02. Means, sir, you can do that in the string formatting itself, right? Yes, but I just want to show you how to do. So for that, I define these values separately and I am applying that. Means if you give like a 02, I convert and do it. So at 02 value will be displayed. So like that, I am creating one more column called as month by extracting this column and getting only the month and doing it. So like that, for everything, I will get a month. Now within this data frame, I created one more column. So in the data frame, see here, I'm asking month dot values count. Means month wise, how many counts are there? You will get that. How many in Jan, how many in Feb, how many in like that. Those values you want to create a data frame. See, data frame can be created in multiple ways. So data frame can be created from a CSV file, Excel sheet, so in any of the file systems, or you can create from a list, you can create from a dictionary. So all these things, you know. Similarly, from a data frame also, you can create another data frame like this. So directly if you assign also, it creates a data frame only. So, but like you don't want these changes to affect the others. That's the reason you created like this. So means like, you know, the concept of copy problem, right? If you do changes on one, it should not affect the others. That's the main thing. So for that, I created like this data frame, or like there is something called as dot copy also, like that also you can create. So you created a dot and you did a reset index. means you create a new index for these values, because this df, when any frame, when you're working on it, will create its own index. You don't want that index, so that's why you did a reset index. And for that, how many columns should be there? So generally, when you get to month dot values count means what? You get the month information and how many values are there, right? For that, you are giving a names. Column names, if you want to give for any data set, if there are some column names, and if there are no columns also, or if you want to override the existing columns also, you can give like this. So I'm giving like month and so and so. Now that's the reason first value is month, second one is stocks. So totally I'm asking head of 3. So that's why I got only 3 values. So you got the results like this. Feb has like 607. Jan has like, so if match this month, June this much. So most of the time you can see like, right, in the around the Feb to March people are there. Means like in the December they are preparing when they are having a lot of holiday time and they're doing it. And similarly, you plotting a bar graph, bar plot from it. So x equal to month, y equal to so and so. You give the months and like the orders, whatever you have. So means any graph when you're displaying, you should now understand, is it a one dimension or two dimension? If so, if two dimensions, what should be the x-axis, what should be the y-axis? Okay. Similarly, if I go for the next project, which is like FIFA World Cup, so it's also in same way. The point of going for these things are, sir, like for you to understand how to work with these data frames and data sets. There is one Kaggle data set which I took. So I gave a reference also. So same thing, anytime when you're working, so all import should be in the starting such that everyone will be aware what modules you are using. Any inlines, magic cells, all activation should be done in the starting itself. That's a best practice. Then you loaded a data set from it. So you mentioned that data set, and you see like this data set has unnamed column, means somehow has created this unnamed extra column unnecessarily. And after seeing the data itself, by slowly, if you do more this kind of EDA, you will understand every data set, what is the problem, how to work on it. And also, if you have your own project, in project based some kind of irregularities also you'll understand. So ages are there, photos are there. Photo is like JPEG file, something is saying Argentina. Flags are the saying what is the URL to get their flags. So overall, so and there are many columns are there. Some of the columns it is not showing. Dot dot dots means expansion. So they shrinked it. In total, if you see how many rows and how many columns are there, this data set is very unique because it has like 89 columns are there. So when I asked the columns, did you see these many columns are there? Too many columns are there. But like now, in that I want to clean the data first. Whenever I want to clean, first I don't want this unnecessary untagged this one. So I removed that. I said in place equal to true. Then it removed. So the remaining I will have. So from 89, some 88 will be there. So from that, if I ask dot head, I'll get dot age dot average. So age means like the mean age is like for the people 25. And then if I go to the sort values by age, so by age, if I sort, the highest is like 45 age and other lowest is less than that. And after that, so I can do again sorting by age. So you see here, if I say ascending equal to false, then descending order. And if I say ascending equal to true, then in an ascending order. That's the reason here, as it is descending order, 45 came first, 45, 44, 43. As I did ascending equal to true, 16 came first, 16, 16, 16, 16 like that. So, and like, so for the age also like mean value and all the values you can do. And you can make a plot of the ages in a histogram such that you will understand the population density. So population density, if you understand here, population density means every point you place it, then you will understand the more density, more where it is more concentrated. If you see the less minimum is like 16 that you understood, maximum is like 45. But if you can understand by this graph, so most of the people are located in what? Which zone? So highest is in this zone, like 25. But you can understand in the spectrum that from 20 to 30 people are there for the FIFA, mostly because people will be active in that age, right? Sure. And then by age you are asking the description. And now if you want to get the top values by people, you see what I'm doing. See, this is a notation that people commonly use such that more notations they can place. It's not that separately they're doing. As we have these braces on top, it's easy for to do. They are first grouping by the nationality. Okay. After getting the grouping by nationality, I'm asking the counts. So, and after getting the counts, this group is like for doing any aggregation. Once you do a group, if you can do like a count, sum, so all those things you can do. So count is one of them. After doing the counts, by nationality, you will get each of the counts. And you want to sort by names of the people. And ascending equal to false means in a descending order. And you want to pick the top 10 people. So that's why you are creating a new data frame called as top 10. So in the top 10 data frame, did you see now it is much more clear, right? By nationality you did. So that's why it is coming separately. Do you see the first column? By nationality, England has like this ID. So it means how many unique the IDs. So what are the total names? How many are there? So these values were the like same. But you can see, right, sir, some of the rows values are like less than that. Generally, for a given row, it should be same every time, right? But some will come less because if there are nulls. That's the reason any data set, when you're working, first and foremost, you should cleanse it. As I didn't clean it, so I got these numbers slightly different. So, and now from that, if I want to plot the IDs in a bar chart, you will understand. So now you understood that overall in the top 10 people, England has most. So, and like less like that. Generally, host country will have a lot, right? So FIFA 19 was done in UK itself. That's why host country has a lot. And also the countries which are nearby, they will contribute a lot towards it. That's the reason Germany, Spain, Argentina are there. But Argentina, they are like, they love football a lot. That's a different story. And next, players by club. If you see group, I am grouping by club and I'm doing a count and sort by the ID, ascending equal to false. In terms of IDs, whoever got right more IDs, then you will come. By clubs, you are sorting now. So by clubs means like Borsne means, hope you know the FIFA, how it works, right? So people work for the nations, people come by the clubs also. By clubs, it is doing it. What is the club name within those they are working with? Like that. Similarly, we did like by overall I am doing. When I did a by overall, I got an error. So what it is saying, I could not convert some of them. See, that is the problem with the data cleansing. You see, in the overall, so some of the numbers were like a strings. So that I need to see, which I didn't worry. That's the reason it is throwing an error. Means not every actions which I do will be correct. Some will be wrong because cleansing was not done properly. If I do that, it would have worked. So that is the learning. If I do, then it will be done. Similarly, I took the same FIFA dataset, sort by overall, ascending equal to false, and so and so. So now overall data set I'm taking. Earlier I did an aggregations and top of the aggregations I'm trying to do. Now just data frame itself I'm doing by sorting by overall and then I'm trying to do. So by overall I got overall this much. Now if I want to get the top layers by value, I can specify. So values dot unique. FIFA dot values value dot unique. So unique values value you got. So again, all were like numbers. So numbers, if you want to analyze, you cannot understand like this. We need to remove that euro and like convert that M to the numbers in M and K. So that's what I did. How we did for like dollars and others, right? See, I replaced the dollar euro symbol and replaced K with and multiplied with 1000. So M with 10 to the power 6. So you got the final values and you are doing an apply onto the same value. Apply onto the same value and assigning to the same. So that's why now you got all the values. So wherever value is not showing, okay, but it's there, overall value, and it is doing. And based upon that, so we can do. And similarly, if you want to do by another group, so whichever you want to do like this, you can try at the same time. So like this. So you can work on multiple data sets. I added one more data set to show. This is another project. So on the same TED Talks itself, but for another thing that I have just added. And I also attached some of the data sets for you to understand. Apart from these data sets, you also have the Kaggle. In Kaggle, I showed you how to exercise the things. And I also listed some some projects also there, which are very good in the Kaggle if you go. What are the things which I told, further extensions. So you can just go through these sites. There are like more so data sets and EDAs like this. So you can learn the EDAs. And also I added some documentation for you, like in terms of the pandas, cheat sheets and others, like which can help you in understanding overall when you create a data frame, how to handle the missing values, how to connect it, how to join them. So like this. And similarly, if you want to do the analysis, I also showed you something called as Mito code generator. Mito means like, so if you go to this Mito, it will, for once you load it, you can just load your CSV file. It will do all the analysis and show you what all things. Then you decide what actions you want. It's like a machine learning using for this EDA analysis. There are like multiple websites like this. So for that, like I gave a README for you to understand. So this is like Python tutor, which you use for anything. And similarly, one more thing you need to remember is like this group by warning. This is most important. Means anytime when you're doing a group by, ensure the column in which you are trying to group by should be sorted first. So this is the most important thing in pandas. You call it as a bug, it's up to you. But like whenever any column on which you are trying to group, if it is not sorted, you will get like multiple clusters. So that is when you call it as a bug or something, it will be like that. And some of the best practices and all those things I wrote. And similarly, recently there is another module which is brewing up called as Polars. Polars is like very interesting, another module. So it's kind of like a competition to it. And other follow-ups for this data frames are like, there is something called as PySpark. So, but like PySpark, if you want to work, you need to have an environment. You cannot just work on these things. If you want to work on PySpark, there are like different ways to work. You can download and install PySpark, or else you can work on something called as Databricks. So Databricks is something like, as a data engineer, it's like more famous. Databricks comes in different ways. Databricks is like a separate company that also will give you for PySpark, or else you can go for like a Azure Databricks. Azure Databricks. So that is also there, another product. So these are like more famous things. So if you want to work next in this journey, or so if you want to refocus on your content in terms of data visualization and the next steps in this data visualization, as I told you, so after these two data sets, if you are focusing on the data visualization part, so there are like modules like Matplotlib, Seaborn, and there are something like AutoViz. There are many good modules out there. So if I can showcase them, so first, so this is like Matplotlib. So I showed plotting first, then I'm showing like how to use these plots in a better way. So you can also implement these plots on your own and do it. So earlier I showed the plots in a file. So in a Jupyter notebook, that's why I did a Matplotlib inline. Now you can do this explicitly outside. So the point, if you see, is that if I execute these graphs, um, first we need to, if you want to work on this, first we need to install this module and work on it. So I will check, like I have a local, so poetry file. So I created a virtual environment yesterday using a poetry, right? I have my own poetry file. When you have a poetry file in the current directory, you can do like poetry shell. Then it will activate the existing virtual environment if it is there. If not, it will create it. So for doing that, first we need to ensure in current directory there should be pipe project mail. Now I have now. Now we need to navigate to this directory where these particular things are there. I navigated. So what I can do, CLS and Python. So yes, also. If I do a plot, what I'm trying to do is like I created a line plot. So from now to understand these things, we need to showcase the entire screen so that you'll understand. You see now, you got like a separate window now. So what I did is like I took like matplotlib.pyplot as PLT and I'm plotting the numbers. So I was taking some numbers and I'm plotting those numbers only. Means I have only one dimension, some values. So for each of the values, it is showing the graph now. So what is this numbers? So how much size? For the 0th value, I have like 2. That's why 2 came. Next, I got like 1. That's why it showed 1. So then like I got 4. Means this distribution, it is showing, right? Each of the heights of each of the numbers. You just gave 4 values. So these 4 values are given. The index of these 4 values is the x-axis and the values are the y-axis. That is how you get. And if you want to make a labels, you gave the label to it for the y-axis. For the x-axis, you didn't give any label. So, but it worked. But if you want to make the plot plt dot say x label, if I say x label of say numbers, if I write, so first we need to close it, okay? If you close it only, the program is done. Till then, program is still running. It is not that it creating a file and closing it. It's not creating like that. It is creating a graph in an interactive way. What is the point of this interactiveness? I will tell you. But did you see now? The x-axis also came. So labels are for us to understand. So this kind of names to it. So we are plotting and finally we should use dot show. The moment you did a dot show, it will show it. Sir, we did do the same thing in the there means. That's the reason the magic cell we used. And I am telling this is an interactive graph. If you want to save it, you can use this option to save. Or if you want to zoom things, you can click on and zoom it. If you click like that, it will zoom the values. So if you want, it's going further, right? So zooming like this. So do you want to go to the previous view? You can tell like that. If you want to go to the home, like this. So like this, you created one graph. This is a typical simple line graph. And next, if you see, this is a bar graph. Same PLT I'm using. I am displaying a bar graph. I am taking some values and I'm taking some labels. These two together I want to do. So how many? I have 4 values and 4 numbers are there, right? So I want to say that there are electric, there are 2. So means solar this much, diesel this much, these many cars are there. So I want to display. For that I am doing positions or list of so and so values and I'm displaying this bar chart. I am giving the numbers and I'm giving the labels, 2 values, 2 lists I am giving, and the positions also I give separately. So totally bar chart took 3 values. So this here in this view took bar chart generally take the x-axis. X-axis is the axis values you give, and the y-axis is just the numbers. It didn't take like the labels. The labels I am using next in the xticks. If I do like Python, so b so and so, you can notice that the same plot it is showing like this. If you can understand. So did you see now? These electric, solar, and all these things labels. It's not like X label or Y label. The labels are related to this xticks. Means in the x-axis for each of the value, if you want to do a label, that is how you do it. Similarly, in the y-axis also, if you have multiple values, if you want to label them, then you can do like y-ticks. Hope you understood the difference between this x-ticks and y-sticks. And also when I'm doing the bar graph, I'm saying color equal to blue. So that's why the output is in the blue color. So like that. And similarly, if I go to the third one, so the basic, okay. So for the plotting also, I gave like in a graph and others just to show you. As it just I already showed you here, I'm just reusing the same thing. So I am reusing the same thing here, if you can understand. So matplotlib I'm taking. You see here also it is like showing it. But if as I place the inline equal to true, everything is coming inside. But of course, I just don't want to take that basic plot, means Jupyter notebook. You can just walk through it afterwards. But you see here, the same bar chart, whatever you have seen previously, I'm just enhancing it. Earlier, you remember you have X-ticks, right? I don't have like X label and Y label. Now for that, I enhance it to have this X label and Y label. Now we see the same thing previously, what are the graph you saw? It got the X and Y labels. Same example, what are you see previously. So similarly, for that, if I go enhance, I'm trying to enhance it. Now I am doing two graphs. So bar plot of this one, bar plot of this one. So two things I have. And I have like X-ticks, title and so and so. Now you see here. So there are two, one is like in a green color, one is in a blue color. So if you see, as both are coming in the same graph, I changed the colors so that they can be better visualized. Now, did you understand what happened? So in a bar graph, everything is coming. So first the green color came and then the blue color came. So each of them has superimposed. May generally, when we can use these kind of things means, if you want to see the quarterly results, say in a year, there are 4 quarters. If you want to see the results, these 4 quarters, you want to see the results for the past 10 years if you want to see, or past 5 years if you want to see, or past 2 years only you want to see. In each year, so for the electric, in the first graph how much, second graph how much. So means by this you will understand, right? So in each year how the things happen. So in each of the section individually. So that's what you can visualize. And for the overall title also I give. This is what title gives. Next, one small enhancement to it is in the E, I'm enhancing it by doing like this. See the same thing I did. Apart from that, I added a legend and this one, Python E so and so. In this case, if you notice, see what it did. You don't know these two. You are telling what is that. But here I mentioned that. What is these ones? So green means like green first label, red means this thing. This is the legend. Legend means it will come like this. So now you will understand, right? Rather than that, I will tell like, so 2023, 2022, like that I can specify what are the values are there. And similarly, if I go further, the same thing we can slightly differ. Bar you means like you got straightly, right? So the same bar, if you want like horizontally, you can specify that. Now see here, the same bar you got in a horizontal. That's what it's called as bar horizontal. Hope you understood. Next, based upon these things, next if you see like there is another thing called as another plot called as a pie plot. So you understood the histogram, bar plot, bar H horizontal. Now next one is pie plot. Pie plot means overall you want to distribute and show like how much distribution it has. So there are two purposes. Earlier you use bar and others to see like on a typical each section how much each one is extended. Similarly, histogram means where things were more concentrated. If you just want, that is there. Whereas pie means if you want to know the share of each of them in the overall picture, each one how much share. If you want to visualize that better, this is a good thing. So that's the reason. See here, I took the values and I took the labels. Means for these values, what are the labels should be there, and I did a subplot. You see here, subplot. This is interesting. So till now I didn't use this word called as subplots. I did a subplots, and within that subplots I am doing .py and I'm doing a show. Subplots means within this one graph I can have multiple graphs. At this moment I have only one, but down the line I can add. That is the concept of subplots. Means within one plot you want to do multiple things. So you did a axis dot, so pi of numbers comma labels you give. So means overall you understood that more people are with Python and Ruby also. So next followed by C++, then CH. So it's very clear, right? For human brain, if you want to say like what is the share of each of them, this is the best way. And next is like in the pie chart. So I am doing enhancing further. Same like in the earlier, for the pie chart, I'm adding more options like label, shadow, and all this information. If I add this, so now you can see that the pie chart will be further enhanced. And did you see what happened? Explode equal to explode I gave. The moment I gave the explode, so you see now how much, and also you are asking labels. So start angle is equal to 90. Means start angle means like from where it should start. So from 90 degrees it is starting. So Python is there, right? Python is going in this direction. So from 90 degrees means this one, okay? It is starting here. So it is going in a, so what is it? What is this direction called? It's reverse clockwise direction. So Python first, then followed by Ruby, then followed by C++, then followed by PHP. So like that, when to start, each distribution, how much you want, if you want to separate them. So means why Python was separate? Because this is the highest in a distribution, right? Others are all small. So like that, if you want to do, this is more. Explode equal to explode again. So yeah. So in the explode, if you give, this is the explode actually. I gave 0.1 to this. That's why it exploded by 0.1%. So it means 0.1. So for other cells, if you give explode, you see the difference how it is working. And also we need to close it. Only then the program is done. So that's the reason after your work is done, you need to save it. Okay, saving is also easy, but fine. Say Python. If you say I, oh my God, Python I, multiple graphs. You remember I told subplot means like within the same graph multiple will come, but still now I didn't do. But why, when we need to do that, the reason I am telling, if I do like a plot, say I'm taking two numbers and I'm doing a ordinary plot. So if I do again a plot, again I do plot, till I do dot show, nothing will be shown. So by the time I did a show, I take like created two graphs, right? Now if I see, both are superimposed. So you didn't give this color. For our betterment, it only gave a color such that we will distinguish. But if you want a colors, you can specify that legend, such that legend will come to you to understand. But in this case, you understood there are two graphs, two figures are there. So, and like the same thing, if you are doing with a subplot, this concept is different. When you're defining a subplot, you are mentioning that, hey, there should be two subplots. In that axis, I am giving like, what should be the x, means zeroth value, what should be the y values, means, sorry, first values. So now, if I define like this, earlier you got multiple graphs, figures in the same graph. Now, these multiple things will be coming separately. Did you see here? I take the x-axis like line space. Line space, you know, right? Where you decide like how many values you want. Step you don't write. So, and like you gave the y is like, so sign. So now I'm distributing the same thing and I want to print it. X and y, x and minus y. And you want like two subplots. That's why two subplots were created. The first one is the zeroth one. This is first one. So whatever you plot it, you get it. So they are like vertically stacked. So you gave the numbers. Sometimes if you want to print like multiple graphs, this is a very good advantage. And similarly, in this case, observe, you created here also like a plot of two. You gave two numbers. You just gave it. You say like k multiple plots two. You can understand, see here. This is another one. Generally it will come. So by default, it will be like a vertical stack. If you want to change also, you can do it. And similarly, there are like multiple options for, I mean to show. There are many things like, yeah, pie plots, graphs, charts I gave. And I attached some of them also, some visualizations, some kind of, there is one beautiful document here. Someone has did it. I really like fascinated with this. So just walk through it. It is giving like the entire steps, step by step. It's one of the presentation by some person. It's very good how they have presented the entire things. Just walk through it, you'll understand each of the plots, how they are using in others, and what we can add markers and other informations. And apart from that, there is another thing called a Cborn. Cborn is also another big module. We can do a lot of things. So what all things that we cannot do on an ordinary matplotlib, we can do with Cborn. And it doesn't mean that this is like a exclusive things. So sometimes people interoperatively use both of them. Mainly Cborn is designed for this kind of highest, more, so more things like scatter plots and all these kind of things. and you can just walk through it. And next, there is one interesting thing called as like AutoViz. AutoViz is like another module for these visualizations only. So the point of going for AutoViz is like, by the name, as the name it is saying, it will automatically visualize the data. You give the data set, it will automatically visualize. See, I gave some file name. I think something is happening. Okay, 1 second. So AutoViz. Okay, yeah, this is more clear. This AutoViz, did you see now the data you give right now for the AutoViz? The moment you give to the AutoViz, it only is giving all the kinds of plots, right, for you to understand. So all kinds of plots it is giving in one shot. So means generally in the machine learning people use this AutoViz module a lot. So if you don't know in which case you want to use which plot, and if you want to create all the plots and then understood what to do, this is like mostly useful for them for creating. You give any CSV, if you say like how to use, that's it. So now you came to a stage in which like learning basic Python is okay. From now onwards, domain knowledge, if you have, only you can excel. So for each of these modules are into domain specific. In that domain, if you know more, then you can understand. But like how to do the things, I gave like one simple place, like mostly matplotlib and these things. Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. Plotly, these are the most common things people use for the data visualizations. So an understanding. And this is one more sheet which I showed. You see now here, there is one CSV file which we are put, and we are taking the data from it. From that, they are displaying like a line plot. So I think by now you understood about the line plots and others. See, these line plots we can create using pandas also. Pandas also, data frame has dot plot option. With that also we can do a plot. So like this. And similarly, you can do the same thing with matplotlib. In matplotlib, when you're creating, you need to create the subplot, means how many it should be, figure size, what is the row and so column dimension, and you are creating your own group and you are displaying. So like this also you can do. And using Seaborn also you can do the graphs. So all were supporting the basic things. Apart from that, each one has its own uniqueness. And there is one more module called as Plotly. So this Plotly also can display. And one more advantage of this Plotly is that they came up with something called as a dash. Dash means like they have combined this plottings and the Flask application together, and they created a dash. So that's the reason if you see dash framework, dash and Flask, if you see, it's a good combination. Whenever some people want to create the graphs and they want to show like a dashboard. So for that, if they want to work, there is something called as a dash actually. So dash is an app. You see, by the code, you will understand that it's same like a ordinary Flask application only. So syntax is slightly the same, but it will have its own CSS files. It will have its own things. This is another good example for working. And lastly, after all these things, to start with, once we have understood all this information, so next, if you want to focus in the data engineering part, so the last thing for us is into AWS cloud. So we have seen all these kinds of content, so how they are working and all the information. Exploratory data analysis also we did. So now also we did again. So the next one is like the AWS cloud. So how to create an AWS cloud account, which I showed on the other day. So I expected that you have already created a AWS account and you have something ready. So if not, just go and create. It's a very simple thing. Just go to the website and do it. So then based upon that, we can start navigating to it. So if you go for like AWS cloud, so console or something, AWS cloud, if you say, it will go to the by default the console site. If I say like AWS console, so first we need to sign up for the first time, and subsequently we can sign in. Once you sign in, you can start working on it. So generally when you create a new user, you give like username, password, you give that, and subsequently we can reuse it. So once you have created that, we can reuse it. For that, like first we can create a AWS console. So AWS console again. If I say AWS console, I have logged in, and after logging in, you can see that. What are my free types? I created a new account. So what are the free tier accounts and all these things you can see. I told, so the moment you go to free tier, you'll understand what are the free tiles you have. So free tier trial will have this much, means continuously AWS creates some product or other. So those initially you are in the free trial thing, you can use some of them. And for each of them also it is saying, see here, featured 12 months free, always free, and trial based free. So you got all kinds of options. By default, when you create an account, you can use EC2 instance this much time. EC2 instance is a server. Lambdas are like, sorry, S3 buckets is like a storage. So RDS is for a database. So we will not use all of them. First, we will start using Lambdas. That is the first step for us to understand. Then, so means as a developer, what we do with Lambdas only, right? So that I will focus. How do you create one Lambda? How to work with something? That I will focus now. So first, if you have created this AWS, you just go to the home page. So the moment you did like a AWS console, if you do a login, you will come to this place. I am right now in London, so that's what it is showing. But there are like multiple regions here. Which are the region which is near to you? You can choose that. It is not mandatory that you should choose it. But if you choose something which is near to you, or like where the business is there, let's say you are somewhere in UK, so but like your business is somewhere in Australia, so you create the servers in the Australia region such that people who are accessing it's easy. So that's all the point of doing it. And within these regions, what all the services they have. So earlier when I started AWS, there was to be only one service called as S3. But now you see there were some 9,000 or something. Someone is saying some number. I don't even remember. Those many products are there. So typically, cloud means what? All the processing will happen in the central location. Till now, we understood that. Everyone, the moment says they say AWS cloud means, or any cloud for that matter means, you will relate to what you know. What you know till now in the present means, you know your laptop or your computer. Your laptop has like your own screen, so some processing power, some CPU, hard disk, all these things. So these were the basic things. So but in real time there are multiple products for different purposes. So one such thing is like in the compute thing. So in the compute also there are multiple things. So the most focused you will see is EC2 instance. EC2 means for creating a server. So if you want to create any server, so you use EC2. EC2, if you click on it, so I shift clicked on it so that it came in a new screen. You see it is showing EC2 instance. In the EC2 instance means, so Elastic Compute Cloud something. We can create one new server. You can create a Windows server or Linux server. It's up to you. So when you're creating a server, what all things you need, everything it is placed here. So if you see the instances, you see the dashboards, tags, limits, all the things. Dashboard, typical dashboard it is. It is saying like you are using the following EC2 instances. How many instances running? No. Elastic IP means from outside if someone want to connect, how to do. So what are the snapshots you have? Means you are taking a backup of existing things. So in the servers also we can do in different regions. So I have selected the London. So in that zone, how many are there? EU West 2A, EU West 2D. So like the regions are there. And if you want to create a server, I can just create a launch server and it will launch a new server. But before launching a server, it will ask me what should be my server name, what are the tags, what kind of server I need to create. Is it a Linux or Mac or Windows or Red Hat? I can give all the OS. Once I give the OS, like what architecture I want. And after that, what kind of instance type I want. Instance type means what is the work you are doing. Let's say you just want to see emails or doing something. You can have a very small thing called as T2. And here, if you go to this compare instance types, you will understand total instance types, how many are there. These instance types are different depending upon the usage. So it is saying like T2.nano means like this much architecture. Memory is like just 0.5 GB. So very low purpose. T2 micro, T2 small, T2 medium, T2 large, X large, like that. Then if your work is further more, then you can go for like small, large, medium. So 2x, 4x, like that. Then after this thing, did you understand? So there is something called a C4, 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 C4 large, like that. Means they are CPU intense. Means instances are, yeah. So you can check like any of the servers. So based upon your usage. So if your usage is more CPU intense or memory usage or like, so like that, you can specify one of them and we can choose. Once you have chosen, let's say I'm taking like T2.nano, very small thing, and I have selected this. After selecting this, sorry, so be very careful in what you are choosing. So if I do like, T2.nano, I selected. So it will come back it, and here it is coming. What is saying? I need to give my server name. Say like, um, say Uday server, or like some application server. I want to create some application, say calculator application, calculator server. I am right. Something I want to do, calculator application. For that, I have chosen like Amazon Linux. So see Amazon Linux. AMI means like Amazon machine image. So AMI means like, see, when you're creating any operating system, say in your laptop also, when you're installing OS, we need to have some bootable CD or drive, right? So that is called as an image. So that is called as an AMI. These AMIs you also can create and place it, or you can use the ready-made AMIs. And if you want more such AMIs, you can click on the marketplace. If you go to marketplace, apart from these things, there were like more customized also. Sometimes people want to get a security customized, or like more customized, or some servers with like some applications which are already ready-made installed. That kind of setups they want. Ready-madely AMIs are available. So you need to go to the particular AMI and get it. And you can choose a particular architecture. I have chosen. And be careful, because sometimes when you go to the marketplace, all AMIs may or may not be correct. So you should choose that. It is saying like the verifying the product provider. I'm using like Amazon's only, right? That's why it need not have any problem. So verified product provider. And I'm changing like the pair. So when you are creating, there are two ways. If you create like a Windows or Linux, when you create a Linux, you need to how do you connect to your server? You need to have SSH key. So for that, we need to first create a key pair. So that key pair we use for connecting to this Amazon Linux. So after that, we can create a security group. Means like, just imagine you have a server. So do you want anyone to just touch your laptop? You create some kind of environment around. So like that. So around your home, there should be some kind of perimeter. In that perimeter, you will have doors, and you want a particular people to come. That is like security group. So in security group, what kind of traffic you want? Allow to your server. So anyone can come and connect. So server means network, if you think. So how people come into your house? People come to your house through the doors only, right? Similarly, for a server, if some data should go out of the server or come inside the server, it will happen on a particular ports. So if the by default SSH port traffic you want to allow, or HTTP traffic also if you want to allow. HTTPS means 443 port. HTTP means 80 port. Or similarly, if you want to allow multiple ports, so anywhere you want to do, or for a custom range only people can do. So like that, you can specify this. These are all networking related things. Then you, for this data, so how much memory also should be there, right? You have RAM, so you should have some storage also, right? Where the data will store. That storage you can specify. This is called as EBS, Elastic Block Store. So you specify the store, it will be like attached. And after attaching, do you want like encryption to it or not? So these are like advanced concepts. So if you see like, so for that, if you specify any IAM role. So if I specify an IAM role means like identity access management. Means, so from another, you have one server. From that server, you have another server. if you want to communicate between these two servers, how do you communicate? For that, instead of giving a username password every time, hey, I'm creating a role. So whoever is having that role, they can communicate directly. So your communications will be much more easy. For that only they created this IAM. This concept is same across all the providers. So you go for GCP, you go for Azure, the same thing is there. And for this instance, if you want some kind of behavior, means every time do you want to use, or like you want to do in a particular times? Means like when you do a shutdown, do you want to stop or it want to like sleep? So if you want to like termination protection, so or like you want to monitoring, there is something called as cloud watch monitoring. Means what are the events happens, means any hits to this server or any outbound traffic, everything you will be having a log in the monitoring. So all this information. So again, capacity reservation, tenancy, RAM ID, so kernel ID. So in Linux means in the Linux level. So which kernel you want, kernel version. So all those things you can specify, like metadata, any tags you want to do. So this metadata is like very much interested. Means like when you do enable tags, for each server we can add a tag. Just imagine in your company, there are 4 departments. Each 4 departments are creating their own servers in the AWS cloud. Servers, different things. And you want to see the total bill. In your company means totally you need to pay, right? But there are 4 departments. You don't know like which department is spending more, which department is spending less. Then for each of the resource which is created, we can add a tag. So by the way you are adding a tag, see here the name and tag. If I do the initial only, it will have. If I specify one tag, if I say like name and I'm writing some value. So by default, what are the server name I create, that will be the tag. And apart from that, other tags, if I want to do, I can do it. Some cost center tag or like some other tags, such that uniquely you can verify, such that in future, if you want to analyze, so department wise, sub department wise, or like application wise, project wise, you can calculate everything. So that is how you create one instance and work on it. I'm not creating it, but this is how you can create it. Next, similarly, after these EC2 instances and AMIs you understood, so the next thing, as a developer, most commonly you use is one more thing. So if you go to this, see these services. So in the compute, if you see, after the EC2 instance, the next most used is Lambda. If I click on Lambda, Lambda is a service which we use a lot of time. Already I created a couple of Lambdas. I just want to delete them. So I have some Lambdas already. So if I want to see them, I have actions here. I want to delete them. Okay. I'm asking like delete. It is saying like you confirm by typing delete. I created delete and it will work. It will close. Okay. Now nothing is there. The moment you come to your screen also, it will be same way. My screen also in the same way. So now we need to create a Lambda. So if you want to create a Lambda, you can just come and click the create. So by default, when you come to the Lambda home console, when you come to the Lambda home console, so when you create a function, Lambda function, there are 3 ways. From scratch, you can do everything on your own, or you can use a blueprint. Blueprint means for ready-made actions, there was something. Means hello world. See, blueprint names are there. See here, create a microservice that interacts with DDS table. Create a microservice. Get S3 object. Get S3 object. Get started with Lambda HTTP. So make a HTTPS request. Means these are all ready-made. So AWS, so if you want to see, if you want to work with event streams, IT automations, means Slack automation commands. Means in your Slack, if you do some commands, you want to fire a Lambda or like something like that. So all kinds of things, they are ready-made, are they? So this is the concept of blueprints. We can reuse it. And the third one is container image. So Lambda, so concept I will tell first. You have a server. First of all, why people go to Lambda I will tell. You have a server. Say you have your laptop. You brought a laptop and you use the laptop for your entire purpose. Okay, so most of the time use it. But let's say you created an application. For that you want a server. So the server is mainly like this. Daily, there will be multiple people who come and access to the server. Means like a website, assume. Your website is there. So people come like most of the time. So in 24 hours, 23 hours or 20 hours they have. In that case, you can use a ordinary server in EC2 instance. That's fine. But just imagine if your server is there, which use like in the morning when the users are coming to the office, they want to just make a log entry. In the evening when they are going, they want to make a log entry. Just only 2 times. In that case, if your server is running for 24/7, you need to pay your bills, right? For the current and all these things. So don't you imagine this is a waste? As it is used only 2 times, so you can have someone run your server and you give what work to be done. That is the concept of lambda. Means you don't know in which server your code will run. But whenever your lambda need to be running, it will have some server running somewhere and it will use it. That is all the concept of lambda function. Lambda function is advantageous when you have the computation time is very less. Sorry, computation time is very less and resource utilization is very less. In that case, we can go for a lambda. But this lambda, if you are using for 24/7, it would be really very costly. So lambda should be used only when you have actions which are happening quite an often. Say like very once in an hour, once in a half an hour, or like once a particular event happens. So like that. So this lambda, if you want to create or your scratch also, it will create. Your code will execute somewhere else and give it. Even with blueprint also the same thing, but template is ready-made. Instead of you creating everything on your own, it will be there. And the third option is containers. Here also same thing, but the only difference is you there is something called as a ECR, means Elastic Container Registry. So in that you create your own container and using your container, it will execute your code. Means it is a container based. So there also you specify everything. So the difference I told, right? In a lambda, you don't know where it will execute. You just execute. In a container based image, you specify your function, you code everything, but you give your own container. In that container only it will execute. But where this container will be spun up, you don't know. You need not worry. You give your container image, that's it. Docker image. So that's it. So we don't want to make too much complicated. So I'm going with a scratch. If I want to create one application, I need to write the things. Say A1 example I want to do, or like simple lambda, or like simple lambda. And which language you want? Python 3.9. Which architecture you want? By default, you can place it, or you can change it. And now, which one you want to do? So when your lambda need to be done, so this is most important. We need to have some permissions. The execution, how it need to execute, means your lambda is there, you want to execute. Subsequently, you will link with others. Means one permissions you need to have, right? That is called as a role. For that, there are three ways. Either you can use an existing role, or you can create a new role with a AWS policy templates, and you can use a or create a new role for you with a basic permissions. As you are a beginner, you can start with this default things. So then, and also you have advanced concepts where you can enable the functions, tags, VPCs, and all these things. But not at this moment. You can take the very defaults. So I gave a name, I gave a runtime. So Python, I took all the defaults, create a new role with the basic things. With this, I created a function. That's it. It will create a function, lambda function. Then once it is created, it will create a new role with this name. Okay, A1 simple lambda, right? So with that, it will create a role also in the backend, and you have it. Now we see this is a lambda which was created. This is something called as a ARN. Okay, Amazon resource number, I would say. Yes, every resource which was created in AWS. See, resource is different from services. Services are lambda is one such service. Like that, there are multiple services, right? In each of the service, you just created one resource. So in each of the things, we have created a resource. The moment you create a resource, it will give a unique number. If another person also create another lambda, this lambda, the numbers will not be same. So it will be very much different. So that's the main purpose, to uniquely recognize. So last modifier it is giving. If you add any description about this lambda, it will come. I didn't add. So for a lambda, you can simply run a lambda. You can also add some triggers. Means a lambda is like a function, right? So till now you have a Python code. You only run the code, it will execute. You don't have someone else to code, run the code. But if you want to run this code for a different event, whenever something happens, for that these events are there. We are not going to these events at this moment. We are coming back. So similarly, the destination, the results where you want to store, that also you can specify. We still don't go that. And also there is some concept called as layers. That also we don't go at this moment. It's a very simple thing. Now, if you see, as I told Python, it gave this is the default function. So earlier, what we used to do is like we used to write locally and we used to upload. Now we can write code here itself. And similarly, we can also upload from zip also there, or upload to a S3 bucket, and that also is there. Still these options are there. Or here also you can code. If it is a simple code, you can write here itself. Don't you think it's like your typical IDE, right? You have this lambda function. Don't change this function name. This is the default function. And don't change this function name. This is also default. And don't change these arguments. These are also default arguments. Rather than saying like Python default arguments, these are the mandatory arguments. You think like that. Because this is a function which will execute. You can write any hundreds of functions, but this function is needed. So from that only it will execute happens. You see this function, it is taking two arguments called as event and context, but it is giving the answers like status equal to 100, json.dump of hello from lambda. This is the function you have. So I didn't do any change. I just want to run. So I want to test. So for testing, there are two things. Configure the test event. If I do, for the first time I can do configure. For the configuring the test event, how do I do? Means there are two things. First, you created a lambda, then you created a role, IAM role, automatically based upon these things. Then for that, if you want to use it. So for that, you created an event name. So A1 sample event, right? Sample, A1 event. I am remembering like A1. Is it better? A1 event I wrote. Should this event to be private to you, or it can be shareable by an IAM role? Means whoever is having this using this IAM role, I want to share it. I placed it. And for this, there is a template also. So I don't want to use that. But this is the default thing which is coming. Means typically, if you have a program, when you have a program, when you are executing, how you do? If you want to take runtime input, you have input function, right? But like here, we cannot pass in runtime. Means when you're running itself, you need to pass. Okay, sir, we cannot use sys.argv. We cannot use argparse because it's not a command line execution. Means for your code to run, if there it needs some inputs, we need to pass like a JSON. That is called as an event. Say they gave this default event like this. I'm not using at all. I took as it is. So I did a save. Okay. Now I need to test it. If I do a test, now I got a response. Did you see? After configuring for the first time, I'm asking. It is giving response like this. Why it is giving? You gave some input. But in this function, are you using any of this event or context? No. You are just taking it and you are displaying that status code is 200 like this. So that's the reason when your output is also same thing. So like this, everything you can test here and see it, or else there is another section called as text. You can go to the text section and you can do test. Means like here also you can do a test. But I would do everything here itself because in one place everything is there, right? I do like this. And for your lambda, you can have the monitoring you can see. Means CloudWatch metrics. I told, right? Metrics, logs, traces. I did execute this function, right? When I executed, how much time I executed, all this information. I just did only once, right? So that's why you couldn't see it. So if I say like for the past 1 hour, for the past 1 hour, it will say it didn't have much events because only once I did. If I do more times, it will show it. And similarly, if you want the metrics means like a graph, logs means how many logs were created. I didn't even create one log also. So then we have like traces. So means like, so if you want to see a trace map of all the things, then we have like configuration. So we can configure anything like VPC, concurrency, multiple times if something want to execute at a time. And also we can do versioning. Means the Lambda, what are you doing? If I say publish, means that action will be saved. So publish is similar to what we see in a Jupyter notebook checkpoint, right? Means after some time you can go back to this point and get from it. Like that versioning will come. Means if in middle, if I do any changes within the code, I cannot recover the previous one. I cannot say Control Z. But if you want to recover at individual steps in middle, you can do a publish such that you can do it. So this is how a typical Lambda function is there. You started. Now, if I want to create one more Lambda like this, again come back to the functions. You see here, package is dip. So something it is showing right 7 minutes ago. Now let me create one more Lambda function. This time I want to say like a2 example. Say using event data. Example, using event data. So now I'm taking Python, the same defaults again. So the same thing again, create a new role. So I'm all defaults I'm using. Advanced settings also I'm not going. So I'm creating a function now. Now it will create one more function. So the point of this Lambda is that if you create a server, till now 1 hour means 1 hour also I need to pay. Whereas the Lambda means how many times it is running, that much times only I need to pay. So, okay, it is creating like this. A new Lambda was created. Okay. Next, if you see here, created a Lambda, right? So it is giving a URL. I have this Lambda. So here also same response is there, but I am not using the event. So here also, if you want to test it, how you can just do a test. So when you're doing the test, you can use the existing events. So edit an saved event, or you can use a new event. Say like, so A2 event I'm writing, A2 event. So do you want to share it or private? It's up to you. Then I want to give something. Say I want to use. Say I want to say like name is some Uday. I want to say some name is equal to Uday. I want to use this. So I have a name. So if I want to use it, I need to use this called as event. So for that, first I need to save it. Name is event. Or like I will make much better things to do. I wrote like name, right? So there are two things called as event and context. Context will give you the Lambda related information, like, so what is the memory, how much usage, all this information. But event is one thing that gives the event data. So the event we passed as a key, right? So the key is like the name I passed. So person name is equal to this event has a name. Event is a dictionary. Dot, so get of name is a key I give. So no such key I am writing. It's the best practice, right, to do. So instead of hello to Lambda, I will write like hello from. So what are the person name? So don't you see? I made use of the event and getting the things. Now, if I say run it, did you see? I got hello from Lambda. Why I'm getting hello from Lambda? I am using a2.event data, but I should get like hello from this one, right? hello from person, I got it. Means I need to go to this configuration event. Which event? By default you do, it will not take the event. I didn't give. So if I do A2 event, then if I do test, so if I go to the test events, you see, I need to use the second A2 event for this, and I need to do a test. So now if you see, again it is saying hello from Lambda. So if I say your code, hello from Lambda is coming again. You see here, the Lambda handler, hello from so and so, save. Okay, I didn't save earlier. That's the reason. Why it is showing hello? Oh, I need to do deploy. That's a main. You see here, that's a point difference. Every time I forgot that. If you after saving, you should do deploy. Only when you deploy, this code will be checked in. Then if I do a test now, you see hello from Uday came. Earlier, the mistake is that I didn't do deploy. Then if I do a deploy, I will get it. So this is how I create a typical Lambda. So any doubt till now? You understood about the Lambda? I will give more examples now after this to understand. Any doubt till now? Okay. If not doubt, fine. So then like I create like one more Lambda. I go with like creating a new Lambda. This time I want to do some kind of operations with your Lambdas. Say like I want to use this event data. I want to pass like different kinds of event data, and subsequently I want to use it, this event data. So one such thing is like say like one more event, create A3. So event data using event data. I want to create a person. So I am using all the same settings. If I say it will create a function for a moment, it will take. Then after creating the function, it will show the content. And here, if I want to change anything, I can specify that. Say I want to have the event and I want to pass. Earlier also, I just used it. I just want to reuse the same thing. And I damn sure know that there is a key called as name. If there is an issue, it will throw an error. That also I should be ready. So whenever I'm doing like this. Now from this, I'm creating a JSON response. So earlier I just did it there, and just I am creating a response. From that, I want to create something. And observe, every time when you do a return, it's the best practice to write the status code, because the status code will be used. And you cannot write the status code in your own names. You should write exactly like this. So earlier, what we did, we just did like a request, so status body. Now instead of that, I'm saying instead of just body, I'm giving some headers also, such that the response which is coming can be accessed as a so API also. So means like an endpoint. There is another thing I will tell you. I wrote something. The best practice is what? We need to deploy it. Without deploying, we cannot test it. I try to test. As nothing was configured, it comes here. It's a A3. Say person Uday. If I say person is like Uday, if I say person is Uday, and I give like a private shareable data, and I give all information clearly. Say name is say Uday. So age is like, don't ask me, 23, and like salary is like some number, something. I got these three informations. So similarly, I created this data and I saved it. I have like this event. Now I will configure A3 person Uday, right? I pass it, and if I run it, so I say hello from Uday. So you got like header also. So earlier your response is very simple. Now it is much better, such that if you create like a endpoint, we can use it. So then if you want to do for the next another person, I can do a configure event. Similarly, I can create one more. And similarly, person Uday, say like person Modi is there. I can write that person Modi, say here. So person name is like Modi. I can give like age is like he just 78 something. Some salary is there. If I give now, means like you change different data. Array, I did something. Did I change it? One second. So if I say Uday, okay, you see I updated on the wrong thing. If I say Uday, I'm getting. That's it. Yeah, Narendra Modi if I give. So I got like hello Modi, right? Means different data sets I have, I can test with that. So that is how I created a small application. So you just made use of this event for doing it. Next, we will work on these things to create like different kinds of examples. So hello world is one thing you understood. Say like I want to create a calculator application. So next I want to create a calculator. Say A4, A4, a calculator or like calculator uh, edition. Only edition you want to do. So edition you want to do, you did it. You took two things are like this. A4 calculator edition. So after doing this thing, you created a function. Calculator comes, the function is ready. So within the function, we need to write whatever you want. Say first I will write the test data. Based upon that, you will understand. So I want to pass so two values. So A4 calculator. So calculator addition event. So something more meaningful. So in a this one, I want to take two numbers and I want to do say number one is equal to 100. So number two is equal to say 200. I have two numbers. I want to use it. I saved it. So now I need to use it. So don't you think that I can just get the numbers? Say number one is equal to event of number one. Similarly, number two is equal to event of number two. So now I got the things. From this, I can get the message, which are it is. Say my message is equal to f string of three strings I'm doing. I want to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Addition. So I want to say like, say number one. So plus number two is equal to number one plus number two. So don't you think this is your message? So this message you want to dump into this one. You pass it. Now you see if you run it, of course it won't do because you need to deploy. So change is not deployed. So once I deployed and if I run it again, so don't you see I got the response? So this is how it gave it. So it is a simple application. Now you enhance it to do like just addition I did. So means like you do multiple things. You can take like a time zone and do. Say if user gives one time, you need to convert to 4 time zones like EST, PST, so and so. So that is an assignment for now. So based upon this you do. So we can see in the next class.